What's up, fight fans? We are back. Enter the Ring Live. We are back. It's been a while. I think it's been about a year, right?
Been a little over a
That's
year, bro. Almost
A
two
little over
years.
a year. I lost track of time.
too
Yep.
long,
Too
too
long.
long, too long.
But but we figured today would be a good day to come back. We're going to try to obviously keep it regular. Today is Monday, September the 15th, Mexican Independence Day. Viva Mexico.
Viva Mexico, cabrones.
um, yeah, we're going to go ahead and before we even get into what happened over the weekend, let's start on a bit of a not even a bit, a very somber note of something that hit us all pretty hard. I think on Sunday when we woke up after the big day of the big fight that happened over the weekend, and then everybody woke up early morning on Sunday. For some of us, we were awake watching the Hanoi fight when the news kind of broke on Twitter and Instagram that Ricky Hatton had sadly passed away at the age of 46 years old. They're obviously the details are still a little bit sketchy, but they're saying that it's possibly a suicide. We don't really know, so I'm just putting it out there as pure speculation. It's not confirmed. I'm sure in time we'll all know. At the end of the day, the reasoning doesn't really matter. The only thing that really matters is that a young man, a young 46-year-old man, who gave so much to so many, is no longer with us. So
Yeah,
Ama-
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Amazing fighter, amazing fighter. One,
yeah,
one.
it's interesting. There's such a I had such mixed feelings about Ricky Hatton. As you guys know, my favorite fighter throughout my life has always been Costa Tszyu, and all the way up until his last fight. I mean, I thought, I mean, at the moment, I hated Ricky Hatton when he beat Costa Tszyu. I hated him, but once the fight was over, then all the hate went away, and I grew to admire him. I rooted for his son. I think we all did. His son, Campbell Hatton. We all rooted for him during his
Who
career. He
actually
came up.
recently retired himself
He
from
just
boxing.
retired as well, yeah, and had a decent career. I mean, he had that one opponent, I couldn't think of it right now, who he lost those two close decisions to. He just couldn't get over that hump, and maybe he just figured,
Yeah.
you know what, let me just
Well,
maybe I don't know.
maybe the passing of his father reinvigorates him, to want to maybe come back and do something. Because I know I had heard that Ricky was in the midst of a somewhat of a quasi comeback. I saw him in
Yeah,
that
he was
fight against.
training. Yeah, he was training.
I saw him in that fight against Marcos Antonio Barrera in that exhibition, which I thought Ricky actually looked good. Like I said, at the end of the day, I'm like you, bro, and I think we could all share a quick little experience with Ricky. I had such a hatred for him. I think it was because of the fact he was so good and he had such a fan following. Um, and the things that he was able to do, and the fact that when he beat Costa Zoo, it was heart wrenching for us because Zoo was such a just he was just like the one fighter that I mean, it didn't matter if we were playing football, whatever was going. His highlight of his career is it was like we took it personal. You know what I'm saying? We
Yeah.
were there firsthand when he fought against David Hurtado over there in Fantasy Springs, and he had survived 3 knockdowns to come back and win that fight. Against a guy who was top ranked in the welterweights. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, the only way I could basically sum it up is I don't think I'll ever hear that song "Blue Moon" again. And there's only one Ricky Hatton, man.
Yeah, yeah, he was the one. I mean, the entire, there's only one, who, and then insert name of the, flavor of the month. But yeah, that all started, I think, with Ricky Hatton. 20 years ago, more than 20
Absolutely.
years ago.
Yep.
Um, you know, his subsequent losses to Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. We were there actually in Vegas for that Mayweather Hatton fight. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
the atmosphere there. I think they said there was 30,000 Brits came across the pond
I think
to
maybe
watch
more than
that
that,
fight.
probably more than that. I mean,
Yeah,
it was, yeah, but like I said, I mean, it's sad passing, late Ricky Hatton, at 46 years
yeah,
old.
yeah,
Rest in paradise, champ.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
so all
sure.
our prayers are with his family. So
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. His brother Matthew posted something, a nice tribute on social media. With pictures of them going all the way back to when they were little kids. Amateurs as little kids. So man, that's got to be rough for
Well,
him.
it's kind of like it's something I saw the other day. I was watching this video with the actor, the one who was in Sling Blade. What's his name?
Billy
Billy
Bob
Bob
Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton, and he was talking about when his brother passed away and
Oh yeah, he still talks about that.
how he's never been the same. He's all on 50% happy and 50% sad every day. I'm sure Matthew Hatton will still experience that. Obviously, Ricky had a bigger than life personality and stuff. For everybody that I've ever known that have ever met Ricky, they always said that he was just such a genuine person. I know he was fighting some demons there towards the end, but like I said, whatever the case, his legacy moves on. So we just be there for his family and
Yeah.
and go back to YouTube and watch fights. For you people out there that have never seen a Ricky Hatton fight, go back and watch some of Ricky Hatton's fights. People talk about what's going on with people like Katie Taylor and Anthony Joshua. Way before them, it was Ricky Hatton. He brought that whole spectacle, that whole thing that was going on over
Yeah,
there.
that whole boxing culture really came over with Ricky Hatton. I know there were fighters in the past, famous British fighters, Lennox Lewis, Frank Bruno, but they didn't bring that energy that Ricky Hatton did. They didn't. I mean, whenever Lennox Lewis fought here in the stateside, I mean, nobody came across the pond to watch him. They just stayed home and watched it. But Ricky did. He brought the people out, man. And it's just sad, man. Sad.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is too, bro. The crazy thing too is that if you look at what's going on with Matchroom now and Eddie Hearn, it's like this. If Ricky Hatton was born a little bit later, if it wasn't, he was kind of a little bit before his time. What kind of spectacle would have been with a guy like with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and everything that's going on with a guy bigger than life in Ricky Hatton and what he brought to it? I mean, that almost kind of like that soccer. He was able to mixture that soccer energy and what they had in with boxing and stuff. It was insane.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He brought the football hooligans with him.
Absolutely.
But
let's go ahead and move on. Let's move on to obviously the big story. Obviously this week.
Well, hold on one second. Somebody's wanting to get some recognition there. So, Mr. Mesa,
what's up,
how
Big
you
Rob?
doing, Big Rob?
What's up, Rob? Yeah, how's it, Kelly?
Anyway,
Big Rob from Hacienda Heights.
He probably got a notification on his phone. He's like, I thought these guys were dead, man.
We're still here. We're still here.
Yeah, just been real busy with life,
and a little older now.
So before we jump into let's talk about a couple changes. Obviously, as we know, Mike, you're still out there in California.
Yeah, still out there in California. Yeah.
Eric, you're still up in Gresham, Oregon.
Yeah, horrible Oregon. I hate Oregon. Anyway,
the wandering wallaby decided El Paso just wasn't the spot. So via live from the boxing. So I figured if we're gonna really put our nose back into this sport, someone has to have that Las Vegas. So AJ Rage live from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, live from Vegas.
I told Eric today, Eric asked how it was. I said, I go, it comes down to this. I go, I get a little bit of both. I go, a lot of people, when they go to Las Vegas and stuff like this, you got two types of people. The people that are happy that they're coming and the people that are sad because they're leaving. But unfortunately, it doesn't matter what my day happens, I'm still stuck here. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
Exactly.
So let's talk about it this Saturday. Shocker to some, shocker not to a lot of people like this, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. Mike, why don't we go with you first, get your take on it, then Eric, let's bounce over to you, and then I'll jump a little bit on it. Mike, tell me about this fight this week with Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford.
Well, my big takeaway from it is that to me, Canelo didn't fight a great fight. I think he got frustrated about midway through the fight. I mean, here's my big thing. My big thing in this, and this is when people can't argue with your opinion or facts that you state, they call you a hater. Okay. I'm not a Terence Crawford hater. I don't particularly care for him as a fighter. And it's only because of his body of work. His body of work has been absolutely atrocious. Okay. We all know what happened when he fought Spence. I mean, he dominated Spence, but to me, that was a shot-born Spence. Errol Spence wasn't the kind of guy that would get knocked down with a basic jab. And in that fight, he was getting knocked down with jabs. So there was obviously something amiss with Spence. Now for Canelo, why I think the fight played out the way it did is I think Canelo got a little bit frustrated. Not even a little bit. I think he got frustrated about midway through the fight. But once again, I'm going to go back. I went back and watched the fight 2 times. I watched it twice. I had Canelo winning the first 2 rounds, losing the third, winning the fourth. A lot of the other middle rounds were very, very close. To me, the best rounds Crawford had were definitely round 9, where at that point, I think Canelo was a little bit gassed and he just wasn't sharp in those few moments of exchanges. And I think he won round 11, and I think he lost round 12. I think he just gave away round 12 at the very end, just with like a lack of throwing punches. That could be obviously being the bigger, physically bigger man. He was about 10 pounds heavier on the night, even though they weighed in around the same. He was definitely the bigger man. He bulked up, they said, to 187. He came into the ring. They're saying Crawford came into the ring a little over 174. So what, about 10, 13 pound difference? I don't believe that you can look at this fight and go, man, two things. Wasn't a good fight. If you watched it the second time, you'll actually understand it more than when you watch it the first time. Because in the first time, your emotions are running high, you're amped up, you want to see what's going to happen. The second time I watched the fight, it actually was a very, very mediocre, if not only boring fight. In fact, my daughter watched the fight too. She said the same thing. And this is somebody who doesn't really have a perspective on, technical boxing or a bias either way. She just said it was actually kind of a boring fight. She was watching with her boyfriend. She said it was just like she said, I think they were ready to turn it off with about 4 rounds left. They're like, this is just like cat and mouse kind of thing. Like Canelo trying to land one big punch and the other guy just kind of circling, moving, running, whatever you want to call it, moving. I don't believe that. Honestly, the best scorecard I saw out there was Mike Coppinger. Mike Coppinger had a 1 point favor for Crawford, but I disagree with him on one round. So I felt the fight could have been a draw or a slight Terrence Crawford win. But the narrative out there right now that this was some kind of dominant win, this was like in comparison to Floyd and Bivol. When he fought Floyd, it was a catch weight of 152, and we all know Canelo was a very, very young 23 years old. Okay. The best win on the best person to ever beat Canelo was Dimitri Bivol, because he beat him in his prime. Obviously not his natural weight, one division north of his natural weight at 168, but that was a prime Canelo. That was a guy that hadn't lost in years since the Floyd fight, and he was just steamrolling, going through everybody. And Bivol, he just ran into a buzzsaw on Bivol that was just physically too big, too strong, and an amazing boxer. But the biggest problem I have with the Terrence Crawford fans is, and Terrence Crawford in general, is first off, he completely he did nothing to earn a shot at 168 the titles. Okay, other than the Sheik throwing his money into boxing, which is a whole nother show we can discuss. You guys know how I feel about him. I think he's a cancer to the sport.
Absolutely.
So he completely leapfrogs 2 divisions, gets a shot at 168. So Canelo does the heavy lifting. Spence did the heavy lifting. Spence had 3 of the 4 belts when they fought. And if you remember right, Terrence Crawford had the WBO title, which was a setup. They brought Jeff Horn from Australia all the way over here in the middle of summer. So he basically had 2 summers back to back. And I remember seeing an interview with Jeff Horn where he said he was just physically gone by the time he even got to the States. So all the heavy lifting is done by other fighters. So when you call this guy undisputed, the only first time he ever, well, if you only have to win 3 fights to get undisputed 3 times, I guess if you do the numbers, I guess the amount of wear and tear in your body is minimal. Think about it. Canelo won all 4 of those belts at 168 individually, right? He beat Rocky Fielding. No, I'm sorry, not Rocky Fielding. He beat Caleb Plant. He beat Billy Joe Saunders. And who did he win for the other 2? Colin Smith, and whoever else he won for the other one. Yeah. Oh, he ended up fighting the vacant one for William Skull. They pulled it from him, and then when he fought William Skull, then he technically won the title back, even though he never lost it in the ring. So Canelo did the heavy lifting. Spence did the heavy lifting. Crawford comes in and gets these fights with really no hadn't earned the shots at these multiple belts. And I don't think to me it's a cheap way to win. It's a cheap way to just collect trinkets. And the CompuBox numbers. Well, I'll let you guys go, and then we'll talk about CompuBox after that.
Well, the thing is, bro, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, but yeah, Canelo was definitely not at his best yesterday. And I don't know if it's age or, like you said, Michael, the wear and tear on his body after all of these fights. I mean, when somebody has 63 fights and they're not just, cakewalks, you know what I mean? He's actually been in some pretty good battles where he's had to really go against some great guys.
I think he's even got more than 63 fights, bro. Honestly, I think he's got more than that.
No, I think it was 6. Let me see here. Hold on.
Well, 63 wins, but he's got a draw on that record. And,
yeah, he's got a couple of draws. Anyway, more than that. I'm sorry about that. But no, let me see. He has 63, 66, 67,
Almost 70,
68
almost 70.
fights.
Almost
68,
75.
almost 70 fights, man, versus 41. Yeah, your body's gonna, you're gonna take more of a beating. But all that to be said, he didn't look well. He definitely got frustrated. He got tired of chasing after, Crawford, and that's what Crawford did. I mean, he ran and ran and ran, and yeah, he landed some good shots and all of that. But I mean, when you get somebody so frustrated that you're just, and I don't know, maybe that's boxing, getting the other guy frustrated. It's really not.
It was a
But
big ring too. I don't know if you guys saw the size of the ring. It was a very good. It was probably a 22 by 22 on the inside ropes. It's
yeah,
probably a
it was
24
big.
by 24 on the exterior and 22 on the inside. So there was a lot of room. There were a lot of times where Canelo had him trapped on the ropes, and all of a sudden there was just too much real estate to cover.
Yeah, I agree. No, but all that to be said, yeah, he just didn't look his best, and he did look like he got gassed right around those middle rounds for
Yeah,
a little bit.
like around 8-9, he got gassed.
Yeah. And so, but when you're chasing after a guy, for 8 rounds, that's tough. I mean, that's hard to do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But anyway, that's my take on it. And I didn't want Crawford to win either. I really wanted Canelo to make this happen. So I wanted that guy's owed to go. So anyway, but maybe next time, maybe we can get Jaime or somebody, a shot someday. So
Well, my take is this. Shame on Canelo, who his what he thinks of guys like Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White. I absolutely agree with you, Mike. Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White are both cancer on this. Going to be a plague on boxing. I love the fact that Canelo, that during that press briefing, how he called out Max Kellerman, who honestly should just fade away into oblivion. I mean, I'm so sick and tired of him. It seems like all of the old links to ESPN, whether it be Bernstein or Max Kellerman, they've just turned into such nut huggers. It just drives me absolutely crazy. For him to sit there and in this fantasy land of that the UFC is this huge organization. It's not. Okay, look at the numbers. Okay, you look at the numbers. The numbers just aren't there. Canelo made more money in one fight than you could combine with all UFC, Elite EX, and all this other bullshit all together and stuff. You can put all their places. Dana doesn't pay. So Dana's talking about bringing back. Once again, Dana White is riding the coattail of a rich person like he did when he got into UFC.
Yeah, with the Fertitas.
He was a failed boxing promoter from day one. He's going to come in and try to do something again. Look, at the end of the day, boxing doesn't call out UFC. It's the UFC that's constantly trying to compare itself to boxing. That's a continued narrative. Canelo Alvarez, the smartest thing he ever said, and he was absolutely right, was boxing's always been bigger. Boxing will always be boxing. It is what it is. Fuck Max Kellerman and everything, all the bullshit that he thinks and stuff like this. Now, as far as the fight itself, shame on Canelo Alvarez for even taking this fight in the first place. Mike, I think it's absolutely brilliant what you said about the fact that Canelo Alvarez, just like Errol Spence and others, did all the heavy lifting. That is the best freaking analogy I've heard in boxing. I know someone's going to steal that shit. But what I'm trying to say is that they did the heavy lifting. Canelo Alvarez went out there and he took the wear and tear. People are going to say, oh, well, he was in there against guys that are statues like Jaime Munguia, Berlanga, and others. Well, no, he wasn't. But the fact is he was fighting bigger fighters. But Canelo gave away too many advantages, but he knew he was going to give away advantages going into this fight, being the fact that Turki Al-Sheikh was all up in Terence Crawford. This is how they wanted it to end. They were going to get this result no matter what was going to happen. Even if Canelo Alvarez would have won this fight on the cards, they were still going to lean towards Terence Crawford because that's just the way it is. Because they got more room to wiggle and they got more negotiating room with Terence Crawford than they.
But they can control Crawford. They can't control Canelo. That's the difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, as far as Canelo and his overall skills, like I said, I mean, I think it was a very lackluster performance by Canelo. I thought he got very frustrated. But like I said, after almost 70 fights, it's like a matador going into a bull ring, okay, against a bull that he absolutely hates. Are you going to sit and eventually? If you watch a bull, when a bull's going after a matador, a bull will stationary stop itself.
You just stop, right? In
the middle of the thing and call it out like, let's go. That's where Canelo Alvarez fucked up.
I agree. I was thinking of that earlier. He should have just stood his ground and just
stood his ground and do the old adages like used to be like, come on, like an old
because he used to be more of a counterpuncher.
Don't get him. Don't let him. Even if Canelo had to go back into the ropes, put his back into the ropes, which he's very good at fighting out the back ropes, and bait Crawford in. He didn't do that stuff. What did Canelo think was going to happen by? I'm not gonna
Running
get too long in the tooth in this, but I'm gonna just tell you what my take is on Canelo. Canelo's become very complacent. I've seen this in the last few fights, and let's be honest, money corrupts you. Money makes you less hungry. Money makes you have less drive. If you got a lot of money, you don't really wake up in the morning saying, "Hey, I got to get my ass, take a shower, take a shit, and go to work," because you got a lot of money. Okay, that's where Canelo's at in this world. Crawford was chasing legacy. Crawford was chasing, I want to keep my O. Crawford was chasing other opportunities that are going to come. I don't want to hear this shit. David Benavidez, Bibble. We know that's unrealistic, okay? We know what Terrence Crawford's going to do. Look at, I think Crawford did a classy move by giving Canelo back his belts. I think Crawford did a classy move by not running his mouth so much and kind of keeping kept that sock in Bomac's mouth and told him, hey, just shut up, dude. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to stain this thing by going out there diminishing what I just accomplished because I accomplished at the end of the day, not your fat ass.
Exactly.
So, I mean, the bottom line is that, you know, do I want to see a rematch? Absolutely not. This fight was exactly what it was. The end result was exactly what we thought it was going to be. It was a cat and mouse chase, and thank God nobody had to spend $79 because it wasn't worth it. It was free on Netflix. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, could you imagine if you had to pay for that fight? You'd have been the entire card. I mean,
well, with the exception of the one fight before, Lester Martinez.
Yeah, I mean that was an entertaining fight. But when you look back at the fight, it wasn't exactly it wasn't a display of boxing skill. It was rock'em sock'em robot, stand and just throw.
Yeah, and that's honestly, I mean, that's all I really want. I mean, there's not really much more to say about it. I mean, so the only other thing I want to say is, tell me this, Mike. Where do you think Canelo goes from here?
Honestly, I think Canelo might retire. He was already saying a couple of things after the fights about how, you know, his legacy is already cemented. You know, his wife, his kids. You know, maybe he just walks away. I mean, don't get me wrong. Canelo could still fight and still make a lot of money. In fact, Canelo's next fight, even if it was for a non-title fight, he could probably still make more money than anybody else in boxing right now. With the exception of maybe Fury and Usyk, because the Sheik will throw the money at those guys again. Yeah. He desperately wants Usyk to lose, so he's going to do everything in his power to get Caballal, to get Usyk right where he wants him at. You know, like on the downside, because Usyk's 38 years old, and he wants to get Caballal, or I don't know how he says that, Caballal. He wants to get him a shot there. And, you know, like I said, I mean, he's not Usyk's a much better fighter, but when you're, like you said, long in the tooth, you're approaching 39 years old. You've been fighting guys 30 pounds heavier than you for the last 4 years. It does start to wear on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. But Canelo, where does he go from here? I don't know. I mean, what fights are out there at 168? I don't know. I mean, maybe he goes. Well, here's the thing, though. If Canelo says, you know what, I'll go to 175 and I'll fight Benavidez, because as good as Benavidez is and how active and young he is, I still don't think he knocks Canelo out. I still think Canelo's chin is still cast iron, and I don't think he would knock. He might overwhelm him, you know, and if anything, maybe a ref jumps in, but I don't think he would knock Canelo out. Maybe Canelo goes, okay, you know what, I'll fight this guy now at 175. But you know what, though, I thought Benavidez might go, you know what, I don't even want to fight you anymore because you just lost. So really, where does it go? I really don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I think it'd be in his best interest just to call it quits, man. To spend his time, you know, helping other fighters come up the ranks. You know what I mean? Have him help. Like Jaime's in his stable now, isn't he?
Yeah,
out there. Yeah, put your money and your talent behind somebody like that, the next Mexican fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's a few of them there too.
Well, I have a little bit different take on this. I definitely would like to see Canelo walk away, but I'm going to tell you what's going to keep Canelo in boxing. It's that ego. See, at the end of the day, Canelo's going back right now after he lost that fight, and he's going to go back. He's going to watch that tape, and he's going to see exactly what he did wrong. Anybody with any kind of a half a boxing brain knows what Canelo did wrong. Canelo's going to think at the end of the day, look, if we're going to fight a rematch, we know it's going to be a ton of money and people are still going to want to watch us like this. I actually legitimately give Canelo a good chance of beating Crawford in a rematch just based on the fact he knows exactly what cards Crawford played in this fight. I'll be honest with you, Canelo threw one uppercut the entire fight, and that one uppercut
I didn't even see one uppercut, and I was going to say that earlier. He
threw one uppercut and it caught Crawford clean, and he never threw another one. Now, of course, I'm seeing the conspiracy theories out there. Well, Canelo took a dive. We did this. No, he didn't. At the end of the day, look, it was a close fight. There was a lot of rounds that could have been swayed. Crawford did engage him with those little powder puff punches in the middle and stuff like this that were doing absolutely nothing to Canelo and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Canelo did it to himself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He didn't. I think where Canelo kind of screwed himself a little bit, he tried to be he could have been the bigger guy. He leaned down, I think, a little bit too much. I would have liked to see his body more like how he was against William Skull, where he was more boxy, more strong like that. So when he had those moments when he was catching, because it just didn't seem like his punches were having a huge effect. Don't get me wrong, Crawford rolls really well with the punches, but even the ones that he lands solid just didn't seem like Canelo was what they call teeter-tottering, rowboating off his punches. He was doing it off his back foot. I didn't understand his mentality as far as the way he was throwing his punches. He really wasn't putting a whole lot behind him. You watch Canelo work the bag when he had Crawford against the ropes. I mean, there was no step in and dig. There was nothing. It was this flat-footed, just this shit. It just, something was off. You know, whatever the situation, whether it was Crawford frustrated him or Canelo just is a step off now, whatever. Do I really want to see it again? I don't really want to see it again. I'll be honest.
He said something along the lines of sometimes, your body just doesn't do what you want it to do. And it's just true.
That's when it's time to say goodbye. Time to say goodbye. But honestly,
I will say this though. I will say this about a lot of those close rounds, and I said this to you earlier, AJ. I think we were talking on the phone. I said, and I tweeted it. I said, every round that went by, everybody was expecting Canelo to land this one big shot, or a shot that was just going to send Crawford into the abyss, and they were going to just wave it off and count him out. And when it didn't happen, it became a moral victory for Crawford. They're like, wow, he survived that round. He didn't really take a hard shot. So I guess the fact that he survived it, that must mean that he won the fight. But if you go back, the CompuBox numbers, right? Which, I have my feelings about CompuBox numbers. The CompuBox numbers say that Canelo outlanded him in, I think, 8 or 9 of the 12 rounds. Now, if you do total CompuBox numbers, there was a round maybe where Crawford might have landed 15, 20 more punches. But if you go round by round, which is the way boxing is scored, round by round, you could technically say you could call that fight for Canelo. You can call it a draw. I remember when Carlos Castro fought a year plus ago, when he fought Stephen Fulton, you looked at the CompuBox numbers, he threw about 70 more punches. No, he threw about 100 more punches, landed like 60 more punches, but still lost the fight. Because once again, one round, if you land 100 punches in round one and the other guy lands 50, that's 50 more punches, right? And you don't knock him down, it's still just a 10-9 round. You don't make it like a 10-7 or 10-6. This is not amateur scoring where each individual blow counts. That's the difference. So people got caught up in that. Oh wow, he didn't knock Crawford out that round. Oh wow, he hit him and he didn't go to sleep. So that must mean that Crawford is doing well. And no, it just means that he just didn't really connect flush, and if he did connect flush, he didn't follow it up. But once again, that's why the powers that be, back when the Queensberry rules of boxing, they devised the strategy that boxing will be scored round by round. Because look at it like this. Remember when Sergio Martinez fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and he dominated for 11 rounds and he got hit in the 12th round? Remember, he got dropped twice and literally was saved like in the last seconds of the fight, and he made it to. What if? And here's the thing with boxing. People forget. People have very short-term memories when they're watching boxing or when they're judging boxing. Look at the first 6-7 rounds. They're close, competitive. Canelo won a few. Crawford won a few. And then as the fight wears on, whatever happens, whatever transpires later towards the fight, that's what stays in your mind. That's why when you look at the Chavez Sergio Martinez fight, you might think, man, that was a great fight. It's like, no, actually it wasn't. Sergio Martinez dominated and embarrassed him for 11 rounds. Got careless, got caught in the 12th round. Does that mean the fight was close? No, that round was close, but there were 11 previous stanzas where it wasn't close at all. That's how I feel about it. And like I said, I've been on the receiving end of it with somebody that I know that I use that argument. Well, if you look at CompuBox numbers, Carlos won the fight. Carlos himself, there was maybe 1 or 2 rounds where I should have thrown a few more punches. So he kind of took it on the chin. He felt he still won. But anyway, that's my take on the whole scoring thing. People, short-term memories, and they don't understand that there's a method to scoring a boxing match,
Yep.
No, you're absolutely right, bro. And the thing is like, you look at, I'll be honest with you. I mean, do I want to see this fight again? Absolutely not. It kind of lost a lot.
I'll be right back, guys. I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
This fight. I think honestly, the more impressive victory was, obviously, we could talk a little bit about it. I didn't get to see the whole entire fight, but that was the monster, Inoue. In his fight that was early in the morning, the very next day. I mean, for true boxing fans, that was actually a more, that was actually, if you actually look at the guy who was fighting against him, it's like this, and he obviously dominated the guy.
It was a more pure boxing match, and not the spectacle. The Canelo
Yeah.
Crawford was the spectacle. It was the
the
guy
spectacle.
with the 400-day layoff, coming up to weight divisions,
Yep.
snacked to the gills. I mean, just put on 20 pounds of muscle, which you don't do at the age of 38. But
No.
this is an argument that I've been making all week. It kind of goes along with what I said just a minute ago about people have short-term memories. Right away, all of a sudden, Crawford beat somebody who nobody had even in the top 5 of pound for pound ratings. Nobody had Canelo in top 5. I think he was as high as 8 or 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Right. But they're forgetting that the actual, in my opinion, and to me, he just moved up to 1 over 1A, is the monster. Anyway, if you look at what he's done in the last 26 months, right? He's won 7 fights, 6 of them by knockout against world champions and mandatories. And now he's setting up this fight with Junto Nakatani. The monster here's the difference between the monster and Terrence Crawford. The monster fights frequently, regularly. He also has moved up 3 divisions. He could probably easily move to 4th, or he could drop down to 1. Why not drop down to 115 and collect another, maybe let someone else do the heavy lifting and go fight that fight and knock him out, which he definitely would. And all of a sudden he's got all 4 belts, right? Would they give him the same credit? They would use that argument. Well, no, he didn't actually win the belts. Somebody else won them and he won the one fight. That, to me, is the pound for pound best fighter in boxing, because he's got a 90% KO percentage rating. 90%.
Yep.
90%.
You look at the guys that he's knocked out and how he's knocked them out. I mean, it's all been. I mean, don't get me wrong. In that last fight against Cardenas, I mean, he got in there against a guy who was motivated. He got caught with the shot. To show that he is human, just like he did, in the fight against Leary. But I mean, the thing is this:
took the guys a little lightly and got careless, but immediately made the adjustment and came in and stopped both of them.
But I will say this though: this fight coming up for Inoue, against Picasso, is going to be a true test.
Well, he doesn't have that fight yet. That he has one more fight scheduled against David Allen Picasso, and then Junto will be early next year.
If he gets past, I mean, and all the money that's behind Picasso right now, that's all Golden Boy shit right now. So that's a fight he's going to have to really be careful where that fight is fought, who's refereeing that fight, because that guy's highly, highly, highly protected. Anybody that's watched any of that Picasso's fights, you see what he gets away with. I saw the guy severely hurt, and I think 2 or 3 fights ago, it's like this. I mean, the referee literally looked like he was giving him, CPR on the side of the thing before he let him come back inside. It was ridiculous, It's like fighting in Canada. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, let's talk about some other things going on in boxing and stuff right now. Obviously, we'll make real quick light of it just because I know boxing world doesn't talk too much about it, but a person who's close to our heart and stuff, Jaime Munguia, was cleared of his accusations of using performance-enhancing drugs. It was a false positive. Mike, you probably got more information on that, inside information. What can you tell us?
Well, the only thing that I really know is that from the moment they announced that, I knew it was bullshit. I knew that Jaime's not that guy. He's not the guy that's going to do anything, take any kind of shortcuts to win a fight.
Yeah.
He didn't have to. He didn't train the first time he fought Siras. He didn't train. He was winning the fight easily, dropped the guy, got careless, got hit with a punch, and about the fastest count you'll ever see in boxing took place. If you go back and watch that fight, it was literally probably about a 7 count that was that they equated to a 10 count. So I knew that it was bullshit from the beginning. Jaime's not that guy. Jaime would barely ever even take a pre-workout drink when I used to watch him train. So I don't, I'm glad he's cleared. And to his credit, he kept very, very quiet the last few months. Not a peep out of him. Nothing on salt, nothing at all. Once he was cleared, he knew he was going to be cleared, right? The entire time he's not there saying, I'm innocent. He made the one statement and then let it all play out. So yeah, there's a big future for Jaime right now, still at 168,
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's good. Now, Mike, let's talk a little bit about another fight that's close to your heart that a lot of people I know are starting to talk about and starting to clamor about it. I saw they were talking about it the other day, and that is the upcoming fight between Ray Batista, the former champ, against Carlos Castro. How's Castro looking in the gym right now?
Oh, Ray Vargas.
I'm sorry, Ray Vargas.
Honestly, guys, I don't know. I know a contract was signed months ago, and there's still not a date on the fight. I'm hearing now that it could be on the undercard of this Tank Davis, um, Jake Paul, whatever you want to call it, freak show, because
The freak show.
yeah, because they're saying that the PBC is going to draft the most of the undercard bouts for that fight. I don't understand why it's not on the October 25th show. You know, the undercard of Keith Thurman, Sebastian Fundora. That's right away what everybody thought was going to happen. But I don't, honestly, guys, I do not know. I do not know what's going on with that. And I mean, I'll try to find out, but I do not know. I mean, I know the contract's been signed. The contract signed, and Carlos is, you know, unfortunately was training so hard, and he was already in active sparring. He was actively in sparring 3 days a week, 8 to 10 rounds each time. You know, paid sparring partners. He had a kid from Russia there sparring with him, and then another couple kids, and had to just basically put the brakes on everything and just scale back. So it's
Hey, can I ask a quick question? This Paul jackass, I'm so tired. Why does it?
Because there's always going to be somebody. Look at bro. There's always going to be somebody. Look at when people go to the circus. People go to the circus to see the trapeze,
Monkey.
the people, you know, try to, you know, be in the cage with the lions. Those are the people that are true circus fans. And then you get the people that go to the circus to go on the cheap rides and go to the freak show. You know what I'm saying? To go look at the freaks, to go see the two-headed cow. Jake Paul's a two-headed cow. That's exactly what he is.
Yeah,
and unfortunately,
good analogy.
As long as there's people in boxing, and I'm saying boxing in the world, that are willing to pay for that dog shit, just like for this upcoming Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather debacle. Here's two more guys that are just staining their legacy.
Doing it again.
You know, then they're going to fight against each other. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous, bro. I mean, you know,
and this is why several years ago I said to myself, when everybody was saying, hey, they're, you know, these guys like Jake Paul, they're putting eyes on boxing. A lot of people that I respect in boxing were saying this is a good thing. And I said, no, it's not a good thing. You guys are looking at the short side of it. You're not looking at long term. And long term, it's destroying boxing. It's making people laugh at boxing. They're going, this is a joke. What, these guys are 75, 80 pounds apart. How are they going to do an exhibition?
It's not just that, bro. Now you got like this other aspect of boxing that's almost kind of like this misfits boxing, whatever. Yeah, we got this. You know, you got guys like this Salt Poppy and all these other people with these ridiculous names. You know, fighting against each other. It's at the end of the day, boxing is still boxing, and that's the one thing Canelo Alvarez said. Boxing will always be bigger. Okay, you're always going to have a sport that's going to come in and try to take what boxing has. Okay, you go back in history. You go back to the days of, you know, John L. Sullivan. You go back to the days of Jack Dempsey and stuff like this. Go back to those days. Back then, they were putting 100,000 people in stadiums. 100,000. The Yankees back in the days couldn't put 100,000 people in a stadium, but Jack Dempsey fought against, you know, somebody, and guess what? There was 100,000 people in that goddamn stadium. Okay, boxing will always be boxing. You're always going to find a hater out there. The problem is now boxing has become this thing where you got guys like Jake Paul. And let's be honest, it's going to take a tragedy. I've been saying this for a while. It's going to take something very tragic, because at the end of the day, what they don't understand is boxing is a very dangerous sport. Even against a mediocre person, it takes one punch. And unfortunately, one of these guys is going to end up taking that wrong punch. Something drastic, something very tragic is going to happen, and it's going to change the outlook of a lot of people. Unless you've ever been a fighter and you've heard a fighter in a ring, you're never going to realize that. Unless you've been an actual spectator and you've seen a fighter fighting for his life in the ring, you will never understand that. Yeah. But, you know, back in the day when guys like Art Dorr used to run these things with these tough man competitions, that's what got him kicked out of every state. He literally had to go in these little bumfuck towns in Nebraska and Colorado because people were dying. Guys were dying in the fucking ring. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to end up happening. That's what's happening in women's boxing right now. I saw a fight the other day where this girl, they're talking to this girl. This girl was, you know, she had this accomplished record in amateurs. She's fighting against this 43-year-old woman that had no business being in boxing. Just like Clarissa Shields. Mike, you made a great thing about, you know, Errol Spence and Solo Alvarez did all the heavy lifting. To hear Clarissa Shields say, oh, you know, me and Terrence Crawford are the only ones that ever got 3 undisputed world titles. Clarissa, you got all of your titles in one day along with a side order of pipe ice chicken. I don't want to hear that shit, okay? It was just given to you, right?
Yeah.
You know? You would fight against a woman who absolutely had no business wearing a pair of boxing gloves, and they would hand you 17 titles. You know,
Yeah, pretty
at some
much.
point, you just got to be realistic with yourself. That listen, you are not in a competitive sport, and you should thank your lucky stars that you are a boxer in September of 2025, and not in 1991 during the era of the Monster and Wolf, or during the era of 1995 in the era of Leilani Ali, because it would have both put you to sleep like that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, she just competes in a division in a women's sport, like I said, that is just non-competitive. I think. I mean, I think in some of the divisions they might be barely in the double digits of complete and total competitors registered on BoxRec. There's just nobody. You know, it's
when you got to pull out fighters that are literally. I saw a fight like I'll give you a case in point right now. There's a young girl from Australia, and I don't mean to shit on her, but Skies Nicholson. So this girl recently suffered her first loss, but you look at the fighters that she actually fights. I mean,
yeah, it's embarrassing.
It's really embarrassing. I mean, some of the girls that they pull up to fight against them, just like, you know, I mean, these girls are coming up there with like, you know, like 5 and 8 records, and they're getting world title shots. I'm like, come on, are you kidding me? I mean, this is an absolute joke. But unfortunately, that's what's happening. But in that's that side of it. There is another thing I want to talk about real quick, bro. I want to talk about Tim Tszyu, and his fight against Sebastian Fundora. We didn't really talk about it too much and stuff. And I got to admit, that was a pretty gut wrenching loss to watch. You know, because it was crazy, because just the other day was the anniversary of a show that we had, when we actually talked about Tim Tszyu was actually with our show, with our format. He was our first ever prospect of the year. Was Tim Tszyu. Mike has never missed a fight from his pro debut to his most recent loss.
Yeah.
For me, it was really tough to watch that fight, because I could see that fighting spirit that Tim has. But you talking about a guy that has been absolutely misguided, carbon copy of what happened to his father. You know what I'm saying? Just misguided, the wrong people telling him the wrong fighters to fight. It is what it is, and I look at it
boxing's very strategic, man. And I know it's one thing to say, hey, I'm a warrior, I'm going to fight whoever, and don't get me wrong, the fans love that. But from a fighter's perspective, if you're trying to establish yourself, and you're trying to set yourself and your future generations financially, set them, you couldn't have picked worse. It'd be like if somebody tried to sell you Blockbuster stock right now and you bought it.
I'll tell you right now, just real quick. You nailed it right there. Terrence Crawford strategically, that's why he's got the record he's got. That's why he's got the opportunity he's got. You think Terrence Crawford's going to sit there with a guy like Boots Ennis? You think he was going to take those risks? Absolutely not.
No, and he flat out, they're saying that, he was talking about he's always the biggest challenges and doesn't duck anybody, but he very clearly ducked Boots Ennis. Boots Ennis was there at 147. His mandatory, I believe, for 2 of the 4 belts. And he said, no, thank you, and went to 54 and fought Madrimov.
Yeah, a guy who came in with 8 wins.
Yeah, I think he had 10 fights total. Well, he might have been 10. I think he was like 9-1 or 10-0. But a good amateur pedigree, but obviously a very inexperienced fighter. No, he absolutely did duck Boots Ennis. He ducked. I mean, that to me, these people like to use the word duck when it favors their fighter, and won't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, this guy did this. Fighter A did this, and Fighter B did the same thing. But for Fighter A, it's a duck. For Fighter B, it's not. It's more strategic or whatever. But, Boots Ennis was right there to fight at 47, and then even at 54.
Well, I think that's why Boots Ennis has moved up to 154 now, because he knows Terrence Crawford's not going to stay at 168 pounds.
Well, no, they already asked Crawford. They asked Crawford post press conference if he'd come back down to 54 to fight Boots. He says, I'm not going back down to 54. He doesn't want to fight the kid. Because once again, it's not a situation. It isn't like Boots has this stellar resume with like 50 fights on. He's got 30 plus fights already. But it's a style. It's a style matchup. It's a young, strong switch hitter. In my opinion, a harder puncher.
Yeah.
I mean, look what people gloss over what he did to Stanionis. They
dominated him.
He dominated, and that was a fight I thought Stanionis really could be competitive in, and I was shocked watching that fight. I actually was pleading with the corner.
A tougher fighter than Madrimov. That's just me personally. I saw what the guy did to other people. What he did to other Russians. I mean, I can't remember what the one Russian guy's name is, but and also what Senyones did to Mastre, which I was always big on Gabriel Mastre.
Yeah.
He completely dominated this guy and just almost put him to sleep a couple times. So when Boots Dennis went in there and beat the brakes off of him, basically, and people thought based off of Boots' last fight against that Chekdov or whatever his name guy was, they thought Boots was going to come in and not look so great. I think that's a big reason why Senyones' people took that fight, and Boots went in there and beat the brakes off of him and looked absolutely amazing.
Stanionis might. I mean, I don't wish it on him, but he might be done as a fighter. I mean, where do you go?
He made him quit. You make a fighter quit. Am I right, Eric? You make a fighter quit. On its own. And that's the thing I want to get back with Tim Tszyu. The loss against Fandora to me wasn't as brutal as the loss against Mike, the guy's name.
Murtayev.
Yeah.
Bakram Murtazayev.
The one nobody wants to fight.
Yeah, Bakram. He hasn't had a fight in a year. Nobody will fight the guy.
But Tzew's at a position now where honestly I don't see him being relevant at 154 pounds anymore. Yeah, his victory over Joey Spencer, was a impressive victory, but then he fought his ass off, but just couldn't get over that Pandora hump. Gets knocked out.
Could he go back down? Could he go to 147?
I don't know, man. I don't know, Mike. Mike could know that better. I just don't know if his structure. Tzew's one of those people where he doesn't look like a big guy, but he's big boned, huh, Mike?
Yeah, he doesn't look that big. I always thought he could fight at 47 because when he makes weight, he doesn't never look like he's killing himself to make that weight. But like you said, he must have his bone density must be something different.
Yeah,
because like I said, he's not body beautiful, muscular and stuff, but he is big. When we saw him in there against Tony Harrison, I thought he's going to look so small. And he actually looked. Obviously, he was an inch or two short, but he physically looked big in there.
Yeah.
So but I agree with you, and it pains me to say that because Tim was one of my favorite fighters, especially with the connection with his father. But I've never seen a career so misguided.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than Tim Tszyu. And in the last 2 decades of or maybe even in my entire career of watching boxing, I've never seen somebody misguided that way. It was just atrocious.
Do you think there's a way back out for him to get things back on track or no?
The only way he's going to get back on track is if he completely leaves the comforts of Australia and comes out west it doesn't even have to come here. He can go to England and train. He can go get a trainer. He can go get like a Ben Davidson or somebody. I'm not that I'm all high on Ben Davidson, but I think at this point, anybody's better than his uncle. Anybody. Yeah. His uncle had no answers, had no strategy, had nothing. In fact, when he got stopped against the Russian in Orlando, Florida, his brother Nikita threw the towel in. It wasn't even his uncle. Because his brother Nikita is a fighter and looked at his brother and said, "This is it," and threw the towel in.
Yeah.
He was on his way to a vicious KO.
Yeah. That probably would have been career ending at that point.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, honestly, let's be honest. That was a brutal beating, regardless if Nikita saved his brother or not. It was a brutal beating against that Russian, okay? The kind of takes a while. Yeah, he came back, he fought Joey Spencer, but there should have been a couple more Joey Spencers. And there should have been a trainer change. And got to come out here and he's got to get good sparring against. We've always talked about it, Mike and Eric. It's like football, man. When you're preparing for the preseason, if you go out there and play against dog shit, you're going to play against dog shit when you get against elite teams. You need that best. People don't understand it. For boxers out there, the best tool you can have as a fighter, better than your conditioning, is top level sparring.
Agreed.
You got to be in there against guys competitive that can push you to limits that your body and your mind are not normally accustomed to. Put you in situations that a C-level guy cannot put you in. Maybe some days you walk out of that gym with your head raised, head low because you just got the shit kicked out of you. But then again, you got to remember who just kicked the shit out of you. And that's the tool. If you can't beat that guy in sparring, you got no business in the ring. And that's what it comes down to.
Fight guys that are a division above you that are statistically better than you.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, you only can get better.
It's like what John Molina said years ago. When John lost that fight against the guy who knocked him out in the first round,
DeMarco.
John understood, and then he came back and he lost that fight against the Russian. John knew that he was basically going to be considered, a side piece at that point. You know what I'm saying? He was never going to be the A-side or anything like this. He went from being, this undefeated prospect to being this guy who's got two, back-to-back losses literally. And he had to take that fight. against Mickey Bay, who was the hot shot, in Las Vegas, Mike Tyson's guy, knowing that, hey, I'm probably not going to win this fight, but I got to do it, you know what I'm saying? And got the big victory. That's the one thing I will agree with boxing right now. We got to get fighters that want to take these chances again. That's why I say I give a lot of credit to Fernando Vargas Jr. He lost the fight. He had his moments, but he took that risk, at least. He took that risk. He could have sat back and said, I'm going to fight a couple more, guys, out there that are just mid-level guys that lost my record. But he took the risk. And he's not.
I'll respect him. And he lost a fight. He didn't take a beating.
It was a close fight, too. I thought those scorecards were way wide.
They were wide. They were wide.
I had rounds for him, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not impressed with Colin Smith. Colin Walsh. I'm not very impressed with him at all.
He's lazy. He's a lazy fighter.
Yeah, he looked lazy.
Just lazy,
yeah.
No, tell me this, Mike. Is the other Vargas, the good one, Emiliano? Is he the same weight as Fernando?
No. Fernando was fighting this fight at 54. Emiliano has moved up to 35, from 30 to 35. Yeah. Emiliano will be 140 pounds within a year or two.
And he's actually the best of the Vargases. He actually is.
He is. I mean, he's a product of Top Rank, so he's had some very strategic matchmaking to look good. But I'm not taking nothing away from the kid. The kid, he's respectful. He's a student of the game, and he's the best of the three. I think of the three brothers. Amado, the middle brother, Amado, I don't think much of him at all. I've seen him fight a couple times.
No,
he fights for Marv Nation. I mean, I'm not gonna say he's terrible, but he's just but he's the guy that may never do anything in boxing. But who knows? Anything can happen. You know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe his brothers, being around his brothers, maybe he gets better. I don't know.
Yeah, but like I said, all in all, boxing, there's been a lot of shockers. There's been a lot of things obviously that knew were going to happen. Obviously, going all the way back to when Usyk beat Dubois. That was, for some people, a shocker. I wasn't surprised by it all. You know what I'm saying? I thought Usyk did exactly what he was supposed to do. There was a lot of fights on this Terrence Crawford undercard and stuff that, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But boxing, I'm going to say like what Canelo said, boxing's always going to be bigger. It's still going to be there. There's big fights coming up and stuff, obviously. Guys like Bam Rodriguez, guys like you got to look at some of the smaller weights. A lot of times these weights get ignored. You got Bam Rodriguez, you got Inoue, you got Junto Nakatani. You got a lot of really good fighters down there.
In fact, when you look at the top 10 pound for pound right now, 3 or 4 of the best fighters pound for pound in the world are all 122 pounds or less. You got Bam Rodriguez, Junto Nakatani, Inoue Inoue, and there's one other one. Who else? There's one I'm missing. And these are all guys that are under 122, maybe 126 pounds and down. Exactly. Small guys. Traditionally, has always been the heavyweights. I mean, to me, there's only one heavyweight right now that's the top 10 pound for pound fighter. That's Usyk, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And then the small guys are showing everything now. The small guys are leading the way. In both the way they fight, who they fight, and the frequency in which they fight.
Exactly. And before we get out of here, bro, real quick, like I said, I mean, it's been a tough year in boxing, except to obviously with the recent passing of Ricky Hatton. There were some other good fighters too. We lost Mike McCallum not that long ago.
Yeah, Mike McCallum.
Mike McCallum passed away and stuff.
I feel like there's one or two more we're missing.
Yeah, I'll get the list and we'll do memorial.
Dwight Muhammad Qawi passed.
The one that was really sad for me in boxing, obviously, guys walking away, is guys like Vasily Lomachenko, who retired to very little fanfare. I think people don't realize the impact that what Vasily was able to do in such a short amount of time, such a short amount of fights. You're talking about a great fighter. You're talking about a guy that honestly should have been true, pound for pound for years and years. A little bit misguided himself. Kind of got himself in a situation where he had people that were kind of misguiding him a little bit too. But hats off to Vasily for a phenomenal career.
Yeah, well, he still holds the record as the fastest fighter to ever win titles in 3 weight classes. Fastest. We may not see that beaten.
And he kind of set the trend. You're seeing a lot of guys out there that are doing things like that now. That are coming out of the amateurs and taking risks early on in their career, rather than just waiting till they got like 15 or 16 fights and then taking that step up. These guys are taking risks at 2 and 3 fights now, and I think that's got a lot to with Vasily and what his impact was in boxing and stuff.
Yeah, he was the first one to really do it. I mean, I think if I remember right, Zhou Shiming from China came right around the same time as Lomachenko, right? He came out and he was one of those guys that they were pushing into a title fight like really, really quick. And it actually backfired on them.
Yeah,
He
he
ended
ended
up
up
losing.
I think he lost like back-to-back fights and just really got knocked out and looked really, really bad there towards
Yeah,
the
he
end.
retired. Yeah, he
Yeah.
retired. In fact, he owns a boxing gym in China where he's working with fighters there and going to be sending fighters over here to the gym that I'm working at right now. He's going to be sending some guys over. So
But yeah, so I mean, just things like that, and then obviously there's a lot of other fighters and stuff that didn't get a whole lot of fanfare as far as with them calling it a career. Obviously guys, like Julian J. Rock, Williams, Jared
yeah,
Hurd, and others and stuff like that. Guys that really, went out on their shield. Guys that went there and really try to give it a shot. Every day, for every, what people don't understand is for every new prospect, for every new glossy diamond that top ranked Matchroom and everybody else goes out there and they promote, there's a baited diamond. There's a forgotten diamond. There's something, a diamond that's turned into coal that used to be something great. You know what I'm saying? There's so many fighters out there and stuff that don't get that second chance, or when they get that second chance, they lose again and stuff like that. Tim Tszyu's kind of in that situation right now where, I think you're absolutely right, Mike and Eric. He's got to make that decision. Either he's going to stay homegrown, he's going to stay in Australia where he can still make a good living and stuff and fighting, every once in a while, maybe lure a decent American out there every once in a while, or he takes that chance and he comes stateside. He comes out here to America. He gets himself with a quality trainer, gets that quality sparring, and kind of reinvents himself in the 154-pound division. He's still young enough to do it, but it's got to something he's got to do now.
I think his personal life is going to get in the way now. I know he was recently married, and I do believe his wife's pregnant at the moment.
Yeah.
They did a cryptic message a few months back with a picture of an ultrasound. Yeah, I think Tim's going to be shelved for a while. I mean, unless he has that discipline in him and he can walk away and leave his, wife and kid back home, in those very important stages of a young baby's life, the development, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know where we're going to see Tim in 6 months from now.
I'm sure he's financially stable enough to bring his wife and baby here. You know what I mean? And
that would be ideal. That would be ideal. But that's got to be tough.
But get himself away from his uncle and all the others, and just find somebody that's going to show him something new. And kind of. Well, somebody like you, Michael, that can actually probably tell him, this is what you need to do and this is where you need to go, and that would be ideal, honestly. But.
So before we close out of here, guys, Eric, why don't we start with you? Michael, go with you. Just kind of give like your final take on on boxing itself. Like a little final thing like this, and we'll go from there.
All right. So
go ahead, Eric.
All right. I was just going to say, boxing is one of those passions that we had as kids growing up. We love it. We love the sport. We hate when we see things happening to the sport that's wrong, whether it's bad judges or crooked refs. We've seen it all. And so these two, my brothers, have more knowledge about boxing than anybody I've ever known. And so I'm quiet a lot of times because I'm just taking it all in too. But I score a fight really, really well. So. But anyway, no, we're just happy that we can be together as brothers, and we always keep our dukes up. So anyway, that's all I got.
What about you, Mike?
Well, to finish out 2025, there's nothing really that I'm looking super forward to. I am looking forward to the Fundora Thurman fight. I think it's going to be intriguing. It's interesting, and then the undercard is actually shaping up to be pretty decent. So I'll look forward to that fight. Other than that, there's really not much going on. Really, the whole Jake Paul, Tank Davis spectacle. I can't say I won't tune in and watch, especially if it's on Netflix or something like that for free. I might just turn it on, but it's nothing I'm excited about. It's because to me, it has no bearing, it has no relevance. It doesn't move the needle for boxing to me. You know what I mean? It doesn't. It doesn't. If anything, it has more chance to hinder boxing than actually provide any advantages or propel the sport. So it's, to me, the end of 2025 is going to be pretty glum unless something gets announced like tomorrow or the next week or something. They do something, and traditionally they don't do a lot of fights in like late November, December because it's holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. People are being with the families, and nothing worse than having a diet and cut weight when everybody around you is eating food. So a lot of fighters go, hey, you know what? I'm going to wait till this first of the year fight. But
no, you're absolutely right, bro. I think for me, probably the only shiny diamond out there that I'm actually looking for, and I don't even think it's going to be all that great of a fight. will probably be the Isak Cruz versus Shakur Stevens if it actually happens. I think the only reason why this fight's a little intriguing for me is only for the fact that Isak's a very aggressive fighter. You know what I'm saying? And the kid really comes from humble beginnings and stuff, still to this day. You know what I'm saying? And he fights for survival. He really does. I think that's the only thing that makes him dangerous against a guy like Shakur, who's become very complacent as far as where he's at. Don't get me wrong. He had a decent fight against Zepeda. But let's be honest. I've been saying it for a while. I know you said it, Mike. I know, Eric, you said it. I was never very impressed with Zepeda. He showed
Me neither.
he always showed a lack of skill. Other than his pressure, he was one-dimensional. I felt like he was being spoon-fed to Shakur. I said that since day one when he went there. I go, this is an easy win for Shakur. Now, Isak brings a little bit different version to the table. Isak brings, not only that aggression, but you're talking about a guy who really does carry his valor and his country on his shoulders, and that's Isak Pitbull Cruz. I give him a legitimate far outside shot of possibly shocking Shakur Stevens. But, we'll see what's going to happen. But other than that, I'm actually with you guys. You know what I'm saying? I mean, boxing's always going to still be boxing. It's kind of going to end on a kind of like on a downslope, like you said, bro. But, like at the end of the day, I'm sure there'll be another big fight that'll be announced right around the corner. My good thing is right now is, like I said, I look at my guys. My top three right now, I got Inoue, I got Boots Ennis, who's up there, and I got Usyk. Those are my top three fighters right now in boxing, as far as I'm concerned. And I want to continue to keep watching them and watch their progress.
There is talk, though. I don't know if you guys saw all the interviews before the fight, but there is talk that Shakur and Teofimo are in negotiations at the moment. They both have said, we're negotiating. I don't know if that's really going to happen.
Honestly,
I'm going to lean towards it not happening. I'm going to lean towards the negotiations breaking down, and both guys will point fingers at each other. We do have. I am remiss to not mention we do have Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. coming up.
Yes.
I think that's in late October. Is it, or October or November? Early November. So that is coming up too. I completely forgot about that one. How do I feel about the fight? I don't know. I guess it just depends on if Norman shows up and doesn't just try to land one punch. Like, maybe you should look at the Canelo fight and go, hey, I just got to go out there and beat this guy, just match him punch for punch and just outwork him, not just go out there and try to land that one big punch and knock him out. We all know he can. All right, the guy's got devastating power. Right? Look what he did to Santillan. Look what he did in his last fight. The guy's got one punch KO power, but sometimes that punch doesn't always land. So,
everything's got to be set up with a jab, bro. I don't know. For some reason, after almost 70 fights, Canelo forgot that. Let's hope that Norman doesn't forget that. Everything gets set up with a jab. So,
Canelo never really wasn't. Canelo never really was a jabber. A couple of his fights, he established a good jab, but these last 5 fights of his, you very rarely saw a jab, which is kind of sad because you can hide so much behind a jab.
True.
But hey, brothers, man. So
that was it. That was about an hour right there. So that's a good spot to cut it. Yeah.
We'll be back again next week, everybody, and stuff. Like I said, this is our first show back in 2 years. It was good to see my brothers. I love you guys both.
Love you.
For myself, Mikey, why don't you go and take us out like you always do, brother?
All right, man. For all of us at End of the Ring, Mighty Mike,
AJ Rage,
and Eric the Red.
Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you later. Love you, brothers.
Love you guys.